Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Charlene and today I'm going to be sharing with you my June TBR. May actually went really well, as you'll see in my May wrap-up when it comes out, and I'm really hoping June does too. As I mentioned in my May TBR video, I have a running list of categories that I'm working through, but I will admit I've already changed it up a bit. Nobody should be surprised. Rather than trying to get to some categories more than others, I'm instead going to try to get to each category once and then start the loop over again. It's not an actual loop anymore. I just have to get to each category once and then I can repeat the categories. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I will leave my May TBR down in the description below. You can go check that out so it'll clear that up. But for now, let's go ahead and jump into my June TBR. So the first books I'm going to talk about are ones that I'm wanting to work on in June, but I'm pretty sure I'm not going to finish them in June. And to be honest, I really have no intention of finishing them in June. The first book is one that was on my May TBR, and it was in the Sanderson category, and that is Words of Radiance, obviously by Brandon Sanderson, which is the second book in the Stormlight Archives series. This is an epic fantasy series following three main characters, Kaladin, Dalinar, and Shallan. In this world, the king of Alethi signed a treaty with a group known as the Parshendi. Parshmen are a race who kind of look like humans, but they have black and red skin, and they're typically considered unintelligent in this world, except for this one group known as the Parshendi. But on the night that the treaty was signed, the king of Alethi was killed, and the Parshendi admit that they were the ones behind it. And this started a war between the Alethi people and the Parshendi that has been going on for 6 years at the start of the Way of Kings. So the three characters that we follow are Kaladin, who is a slave, and he's working on the bridge crew for one of the Bright Lords, which is what the nobles in this world are called. Then we're also following Dalinar, who is a Bright Lord, and he is leading his soldiers in battles against the Parshendi. And then we have Shallan, who is the daughter of a Bright Lord, but her father recently died, and she and her brothers need to keep that a secret from the people her father was working with because they would take advantage of that. So she travels to seek out the late king's daughter, who is a scholar and a known heretic, to try to work under her and also obtain something from her in order to help her family. That's about all the information I can really give you on this. There's a lot to the story. It gets fairly complicated, but that's at least where the story starts. And I have already started this one. I'm trying to figure out where I can set my coffee down. I'm currently on page 84, so I'm not very far into it, but I'm really enjoying it so far. And my hope was at least to get through part 1 by the end of May, if not part 2. And as of the time I'm recording this video, I still have a week left in May, so I think I can at least get through part 1. Part 2 is going to be iffy, but we'll see. The second book on my June TBR is a book that is for a read-along being hosted by Tiffany from Beautiful Minutia, Naomi from Naomi's Bookshelf, Christy from Christy Lewis Dostoevsky in Space, and Victoria from A Musical Bookworm, and that is The Tale of Genji by, let me find the name. Oh, it doesn't say it on here. By Murasaki Shikibu, and my version is translated by Arthur Waley. This is a Japanese classic published in the 11th century, and it is considered the world's first novel. It follows Prince Genji, who is considered to be the shining example of a Heian man, or Heian era ideal man, in that he is accomplished in poetry, dance, music, painting, and romance. I don't really know what the plot of this book is about, other than it, if I understand correctly, it follows a good portion of his life. But I've been wanting to get to this one for a few years now, and this was a good opportunity to do that. So I'm hoping I enjoy it. However, since it is over 1,000 pages long, I have no intentions of finishing this by the end of June. I believe the read-along is supposed to go from the 1st of June to about mid-August, so I'm figuring it will take me at least that long to finish the book. And the last book that I'm planning to take me more than the month of June to read is a nonfiction book, and that is A History of France by John Julius Norwich. And this is exactly what it sounds like. It's a history of France, and it covers France from 58 BC, which is the time of the Gallic Wars, I think they're called, in which Rome eventually gained control of Gaul in what is modern-day France, all the way through 1945, the end of World War II. And there is a quote in this book that I think summarizes who this book is for really well. So I'm just going to go ahead and read it to you. This book is not written for professional historians who will find nothing in it that they do not know already. It is intended only for the general reader, to whom the French rather charmingly refer to as le moyen sensuel. I'm sorry to the French. I know my French is atrocious. And is written in the belief that the average English-speaking man or woman has remarkably little knowledge of French history. We may know a bit about Napoleon or Joan of Arc or Louis XIV, but for most of us, that's about it. So when I went looking for a book on the history of France, because I've read several French classics, but I realized I know almost nothing about French history, just what I remember from school. This is the book I found that seemed to have a really good overview and had good ratings for it. And I've only read one chapter so far, so I can't really say if that's accurate or not, but that was what I saw. But that quote pretty much tells me that this book was written for people like me who want to know French history but don't know very much yet. So, hoping to get to some more of this in June, and mostly hoping to finish this by the end of August. Okay, so those are all of the books I'm planning to start or work on in the month of June. Now let's get into the books that I actually want to finish in the month of June. And the first one I've already started, but that is The Glasstown Game by Catherine M. Valenti. This is a middle grade historical fantasy. It follows the Bronte siblings, Charlotte, Branwell, Emily, and Anne, when they are between the ages of 8 and 12. And in real life, the Bronte siblings came up with the Glasstown Game, which was a game they played where they had 10 soldiers they had given names to, and they created stories and battles and all sorts of stuff for their 10 soldiers to play out. And in this book, it takes a twist on that and makes Glasstown real. So the children are traveling to Keighley in order for Charlotte and Emily to go back to school. And while they're in town, they go by a train station, and a train shows up that ends up taking them to Glasstown. And they find out that this world is real. It wasn't just in their imaginations. But then things aren't exactly like they were in the stories they created. And from what I understand, somehow the Napoleon in this world is potentially trying to get into the real world, which could cause a whole lot of problems. So they're trying to figure out how to get back to their world and also keep their world and Glasstown separate. So, as I said, I've already started this one. I am 114 pages in, so haven't made it real far yet, but I am enjoying it so far. I was a little bored before they got on the train to Glasstown, but once they got on the train, the book got a lot more interesting and I've really been enjoying it. And I just realized I haven't been specifying. A History of France is in my French books category, and The Glasstown Game is in the Brontes category. Technically, Tale of Genji is in the read-along category, but you probably could have gathered that from the fact that I said it was for a read-along. So the next book is one that is in the series to finish category, and that one is The Dead Man in the Garden by Martha Jocelyn, which is the third book in the Aggie Morton Mystery Queen series. This is a middle grade historical mystery series, and it follows a girl named Aggie Morton who is essentially supposed to be Agatha Christie as a child, but it also includes versions of characters from Agatha Christie's novels, including a version of Hercule Poirot in the form of Hector Perot and Miss Marple in the form of Granny Jane. In this book, Agatha and Hector are on vacation at a Yorkshire spa when they start hearing rumors about a former patient who died recently. And then another body mysteriously turns up and they begin to investigate. I've really enjoyed the other books so far in this series, so I'm really hoping I enjoy this one too. The next book is in the miscellaneous category, and that is The Hideaway by Lauren K. Denton. I have several of her books saved in my Hoopla app, but I have not read a single one yet. And this is the oldest of her books as far as publication date, so I thought I would start with this one. In this book, Sarah returns to Sweet Bay, Alabama after her grandmother passes away, planning to clear things up in the town, take care of the stuff that needs to be taken care of, and get back to her life in New Orleans. However, it turns out that her grandmother has left her the Hideaway, which is a B&B her grandmother ran, and has charged Sarah with renovating it. While working on the renovations with her grandmother's best friend still living in the house, she stumbles upon a box of stuff that belonged to her grandmother that point to a life her grandmother led that Sarah knows nothing about. This sounds like my kind of book. Old houses, old friends, small town, family histories. I'm here for it. And the last book on my June TBR is for Chantel's Agatha Christie Book Club that she's hosting on her Patreon this year, and that is Parker Pine Investigates, or Mr. Parker Pine Detective, depending on which country you live in. And this is a collection of 12 short stories following the detective Parker Pine. I have never read any stories following this detective, so I don't really know what to expect from them or what kind of detective he's going to be, but I've really enjoyed the other Agatha Christie's I've read, so I'm hoping I enjoy this one as well. So those are all of the books I'm hoping to get to in June, or at least make some progress on in June. There are a couple of chunkers on there, but I think this should be pretty manageable. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them down in the comments. Also, let me know if there are any books you are particularly excited for in the month of June. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you later.